Hey everybody, Jay Young here of the Jay Young Show, and today we're going to talk a lot about news because there's a lot of big news in the area. So Jordan, have you been prepping for this? Are you ready to go?
I'd like to say I am prepped, and I was going to try and rhyme it with something, but there's nothing that comes to my head.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, there's a lot of news going on. I know that Israel on Friday goes in and throws missiles on Iran, and Iran
Yeah.
retaliates, and prices go through the roof. Not through the roof, but they go up. They go up a lot. And then
Yeah, I have friends, my friend, her family, they're diplomats in Kuwait, and actually they're making them evacuate because it's not safe for them there right now. It's crazy what's happening.
yeah, and you don't know how big it's going to get. You
No,
don't
that's the
know
scary part.
when it's going to stop or what's going to happen. And that's
Yeah.
with oil and gas. They there's two islands in the Persian Gulf that have not been affected yet, but they say that if those two islands are hit and you disrupt all that oil going down the canal, that we could see $100 oil, immediately. That's a lot of
Crazy.
oil that goes through there every day. So that's a big deal. But I'll tell you what, it's something to live in countries like that and go through what they're going through right now.
Yeah, it's absolutely um it's just very impactful in many different ways, and my heart goes out to all of those families that have been impacted by this. Obviously I can see the direct impacts that's happening with my close friend there, but it's you know there is just this side that, I mean, it impacts business, right? But at the end of the day, it also impacts people, and people are people are the business, and people are a part of the business, and so it's very
Yeah, yeah,
it's there's a lot that goes into it. There really is.
yeah. When they say that gasoline prices are going to go up, they'll probably go up in the near term here pretty soon. So, which you can't help. I mean, oil goes up 5-10 bucks, and it's like, the commodity costs more money because of supply and demand. We just don't see the demand going down anytime soon. We were just talking about that. I
Hmm.
saw one of our bigger partners, and he said, well, what do you think about demand? Going into the end of this year, and I said, we've had 6, 7, 8 billion people on the planet going to 9, 10 billion. The increase, and then all of a sudden, all these alternative energy sources are coming in, and the electric cars and all that. It's like affected 2% of our oil, or the demand that we have right now. It's gone down like 2%, and our inflation and the increase in population around the world is just skyrocketing. So therefore, there's like 2 to 1 children born per death.
Right.
Right now. I mean,
You
it's
know,
crazy.
you bring up a really interesting point there, though, Jay. Whenever we're talking about reliable energy, and we're talking about, electric cars and things like that, like I think in general, we'll see more than just oil prices increase. There's just so many different things that have been impacted by that region of the world,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
impact our daily lives, and the transition that people are trying to go to with, like you said, electric cars and things like that. So, it is an interesting point. If you were to talk to somebody who's like, "This is why we need renewable energy," what would you say to them?
Yeah. Well, we don't have the infrastructure in place, and it'd take 30 years for us to get it 100% in place, even if we started today. 100%. But there's just so much infrastructure needed, and there's so much oil and gas that's going to be needed because you just can't take over. It's hard to take from one commodity to switch 100% to another
Right.
commodity. It's just really hard to do that, and that's why I don't feel like the demand. I thought about last year. I was talking to somebody, and they said they think there's oil peak demand, meaning that oil demand is going to, this is worldwide, but it's going to continue to go up. And they said, well, Goldman Sachs is talking about 2025, and then they go to 30, and then somebody went to 35, and now it's like I don't think we're ever going to see peak oil demand where oil demand goes down. It's going to continue to
Mm.
rise. It's going to continue to rise. Uh, Plus, there's also something called where you can get the oil from, and I know it's kind of a weird deal, right? No, but but with you when you think about it, where's the oil going to come from? And the Permian Basin. Let's go back. So we produce about 13 million barrels of oil a day. We produce it right now. The United States produces 13. We use 20. So we need 7 million barrels from other countries. And Canada is our biggest. We get more oil from Canada than any other country. Mexico's number 2. But you see this supply and what's going on. And all of a sudden, if you're seeing all of the wells being drilled. Now, the Permian Basin, like I said, 13 million barrels a day. The Permian Basin has gone from 1 million a day a short time ago, a decade ago, to 6 million, maybe even more than 6 million barrels a day. So it's gone from 1 million to 6 million, which has increased our United States production. And a lot of those wells that have been drilled in the past are drilled in their tier 1 locations, meaning that it's right in the heart. It's the thickest formation. It's the best place to drill. And they've drilled a lot of those up. So what I'm afraid of is when in 2, 3 to 4 years, they're going to drill up all these locations. They're not going to have the tier 1, which make the most economic sense. They're like, if it costs you, $15 million to drill a well, you'll get 2 million barrels of oil out of that well. Well, if you move a little bit south, you may only get 1 million barrels of oil out, or 500,000.
Oh, I see.
It's going to cost you the same amount of money to drill a well, but you're going to get less oil out of the ground. So those tier 1 locations will be gone. We'll be into tier 2 locations, which won't produce as well, and they need higher economics. So if prices don't go up, they're not going to drill those wells. And if they don't drill those wells, we're going to be short on supply. So I see the supply being a huge impact on oil prices going forward, more than I do demand. I think demand's going to continue to go up. Yeah, there's going to be electric cars. It was funny what they said about electric cars and Elon Musk and, Donald Trump. They get in a fight. They get in a fight because, I guess Trump said, "Yeah, you come on and give me $250 million for my campaign, and yeah, we'll just change every gasoline car in the United States to electric, so you can sell Teslas to every American." And I guess Elon Musk believed that. No way, he didn't believe that. But
No.
but he thought it was pretty.
There's no way.
He thought it was pretty good, or he thought there'd be a bigger increase than there is right now. And so when Trump said, "We're not going totally electric anytime soon," Elon, gets mad, makes a hissy right in the middle of the White House. He leaves, but as you've seen, they've made up now. But it's just hard.
Well, I mean, like we were talking about, what was it, last week, I think, where we were talking about the Twitter war that they were having, or the X war, or whatever. I don't know. It's hard for me to not call it Twitter. All right, it will always be Twitter to me.
Yeah,
but whatever. On X, they had it out for each other, and that was a whole hooblob. And I think that maybe I will say that Elon is one of the best marketers that I've ever seen when it comes to creating opportunity for conversation, and by doing so through ruffling feathers and getting people all riled up so that the conversation happens. And so, I think that he's very good at that marketing ploy tactic that he does. It's almost like a guerrilla warfare kind of approach. It's very interesting to see that. There are so many minerals that go into electric vehicles, and so if again we're going to switch from one to the other, right? If we're going to switch from gas cars to electric vehicles, there has to be a sustainability factor in that with support support, because I'm just not so sure that our infrastructure, as we've mentioned, can support that, because at the end of the day, like, yes, it's great to have electric vehicles because your car is not when you are driving your vehicle, to your understanding, there is no pollution that is happening, right? But you still have to charge the vehicle, and that is from the power grid. What happens to the battery once the car is dead? Like, you still have the tires, which are rubber. Like, there's so many things that go into the vehicle. It's not just about the gas, right? There's so many other components of it. And I think that oftentimes that gets lost in the conversation. Now, if we're looking at oil and gas for the vehicles, right? Sure, we don't want to pay higher gas prices, but there is always going to be a cost. It's like there's nothing in this world that is really like free. So what, when you're looking at the electric cars, or you're looking at that alternative energy source for whatever the commodity, the good is that you're utilizing, there's just always going to be a cost to that. So like, what does that look like? What is the impact on the power grid for those supercharging stations? How many supercharging stations are there? You still have the rubber tires. So where are you going to get your tires from? Where's the rubber going to be made? And then you still have other components of that with minerals and things like that. So yeah, it's always, that one's always like a really interesting conversation piece to me, because I remember when there was like a super big rush for there to be electric everything, right? And I know Canada prides itself on being, an electric run country, I believe they said, or something like that. But electricity has to come from somewhere. Okay, so where is it coming from?
Right, too. That's true. And when I think too, and I think about electric cars, I think about oil, and I think about it's not necessarily, well, we're going to use less oil. Yeah, hey, less oil and gas goes into gasoline for cars, and if they're powered by electric, yeah, we need less. But you're also looking at, probably about 60% of a barrel of oil is used for gasoline. Okay,
right.
So therefore, 40% of the other products are plastics or lipstick or makeup or probably this wall, or everything around here is made up of some form of oil. Therefore, we're still going to need that, and we're going to use more of it in the future, and with more people, that's going to grow. So that demand for oil isn't just necessarily going to go down substantially if every car went to electricity. We'll still need oil.
Well, and I think to your point there, it's really like getting the grocery store packaging, right? Like the Ziploc bags that you use and the containers for food, right? It's just like, how do you, I truly think that, I mean, one, there's the waste part of it, right? It's a single use item and very costly from the thought point of like, oil and gas making that packaging possible.
Yeah.
So, if you're really wanting to make an impact on a large scale for an environmental case, then it would be something, in my opinion, that would go towards a grocery store or home product that would then be, I mean, the Tupperware containers, the plastic bags at the grocery store, the Ziploc bags, the food packaging, there's just so many, like you had said, like it's so ingrained into our lifestyle that switching us to electric cars is not a bad step, but it's just not going to solve as many things as like what we are using in our daily lives.
Right. And I am wrong about that too. I said there was 60-40 gasoline. It's really the other way around. It's like 40%. I just chat GPT. Uh, yeah.
For Perplexity or ChatGPT?
I
Which
did
one is it
perplexity.
today?
I did perplexity. Today, so yeah, I know.
Perplexity's good at like getting as like an encyclopedia kind of thing, I
Right.
heard.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is really
Yeah.
good. So it's 43% oil, or 43% for gasoline, and then 57% for other products other than gasoline. So that's
Hmm.
amazing, because everybody would think, and I would think too if I didn't really think about it. You think, oh, you think about an oil well and you think about a pumping unit and you think, okay, well that's tied directly to my gas tank.
Right.
Period.
Hmm.
End of story. And 43%.
Yeah.
So
You know,
that's a
when
big
we're
number.
when we're talking about all of this, I think that this is something that we talked about last week as well when we're talking about OPEC, just to kind of shift gears back into that oil and gas price conversation. You know, is it OPEC Plus? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. OPEC plus.
yeah, yeah. So OPEC Plus output, they missed the mark here. May production hike target signaling some strain and under delivery. What is that? Is that something that comes directly from that other conversation piece that we were just having, or is this a totally separate
Yeah, well, this
conversation?
separate, because oil and gas goes up and down because of supply and demand, and we talked about that forever, right?
Hmm.
Supply and demand, supply and demand. If you have more of
Hmm.
this and less of this, prices are going to go up or down based on what people's appetite is, and the same thing with oil and gas. And so if you do have less oil on the markets, and people want it, our demand continues to go up or stay steady. Demand doesn't go down, but if it's staying steady, which it has. And like I believe it was Iran. It was Iran or Iraq. I have to look it up. One of them missed their targets from a few months ago, so they're kind of
Hmm.
like they're kind of like pulling back now because they oversupplied 2 or 3 months ago, and now they're going, oh well, wait a minute, we need to recalculate. I don't know. Do you really use a calculator for that kind of stuff? But anyway, that's a big number, and a big that's a big decimals. That's a lot of decimals. But so they thought they put too much oil in the market several months ago. So now they've come back in the last couple of um, months, and they're going to continue to do the same thing this month. Supply, how much supply is on the market, and if there is supply there, then we're going to see exactly, okay, good. Now we have the supply, and if there's a lot of supply on the markets and demand, that's like before COVID. Right before COVID, Saudi Arabia and the OPEC plus countries were putting so much oil on our markets. They were throwing oil on our markets and saying, well, hey, we've got a lot of oil in the markets, because they were trying to drive the price down. So
Oh, I see.
if they oversupplied our markets with oil, then what would happen is oil prices would come down. And what they were trying to do is they were trying to take the people in Midland or Shale, the Shale, Shale. They were trying to take them out of the business, off the market, and tell them to quit drilling, because the more they drilled, the less we needed Saudi Arabia oil,
Oh, I see.
right?
Hmm.
So they flooded the markets with all this oil, and all of a sudden our demand went to almost zero because of COVID. That's why prices went negative for a day, but they were down in the 20s for a while. And then they came back up, and now they're 73, 4, whatever they are today.
When when the prices hit that low, was that an opportunity for you as an investor to go in and drill, or was nobody wanting to
Well, no,
touch that
yeah,
because?
right. You want to make sure that when you're drilling a well, everything's about economics, and yeah, you don't know what the price is going to be by the 6 months that it takes you to put a well online and get paid for your first well, because you're literally takes you 30, 60 days to put everything together, and then get the rig out there, start drilling, and then start producing it, and then get paid. It takes 6 to 8 months from your first thought. And that's what we want to make sure of, is that we're doing the same thing here. You want to keep producing it, but to stop it is tough, because you don't know what the price is going to be in the future. That's why a lot
Mhm.
of people are like, well, you can use futures, and yeah, you can, but too, it's hard to start. but you will take rigs off the market like they've done the last few months. I mean, they're taking a lot of rigs off the market right now.
You know, when I visited a rig for the first time, it was not at all what I thought it was gonna look like. Um, it was just so different. Like I was expecting
Good or bad or
it wasn't it really I don't know, it wasn't like good or bad. It was just like, oh, that's what it looks like. Like um I don't know, maybe I was looking at the wrong thing, but it looked like it was like one of those long wells that had like the stuff on either side of it.
pipe racks and all that, so they could put the pipe up and down on the. I don't know if we had if Billy Samoa, Billy, can you throw me on a rig here real quick so we can look at this? We need
Yeah,
somebody to do that. But yeah, I mean,
it
there's
was
workover
crazy.
rigs, there's rigs, there's bigger rigs than others. I mean, there's wells with singles, doubles, triples. Which means you can.
I guess I was expecting
Yeah,
like, when you're in Texas and there's the little
pumping unit.
whoopy thing that like swings
Yeah.
back and forth, with the pulley. I guess I was expecting that, and that's not what it looked
Oh,
like at all.
not at all. Yeah, 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 yeah. Those are pumping units, and that's after you produce the well. So the oil sitting. Yeah,
Oh.
the oil sitting down there at 10,000 or 5 or 10, 15,000 feet,
Hmm.
and has a downhole motor on it. And so you're running through casing and rods through casing, and you're hitting that downhole motor, and then that oil comes
Got
up and
it.
it produces, because it doesn't just start flowing out. It may flow out at the
Right.
very beginning. It may flow out at the very beginning, but after a while, the well will shut down and it'll have zero pressure, and so the
Mm.
oil will just sit there unless you go get it. You got to go get it. So those horse
I
head
feel
or
like
pumping units, what?
that's like that commercial. It's like, I got you $1. And you're just like
Yeah,
reaching for it, like, come
yeah,
on,
exactly,
give it to me.
exactly. Got to go
So
get it. Got to go get it. It won't come.
exactly.
It won't come up by itself. So you got to go out there and get it. But gas is a
Well,
little easier to produce, because gas is gassier and it weighs a lot less, and it just comes out of the well. But oil you have to
mm,
go get, and that's kind of how I grew up, was on pumping units like that. So when we started drilling gas wells, and you don't have pumping units, and you don't have downhole motors and rods, tubing, and all the things that go along with it, man, it's a lot easier to operate. For sure, it's a lot easier to operate, but they're a lot more expensive too. But
one
fun.
last thing that we were talking about last week that I think deserves an update is Russia. Do you want to update everyone on the Russia situation?
Well, what's part are you talking about with Russia? Are you talking about
Um, the EU and their
the
pivot
gas
with
imports and
Russia.
all the things that are going on with the
Hmm.
European unions right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things going on with the U.S. LNG markets, and that's where I feel very confident that we're producing right now more natural gas than anybody else at this point, and we are that's good, because Trump has come in there and said, hey, we need to increase our markets, and we need to let this natural gas go. And 'cause we produce a lot of it, especially on the coast, and especially in Louisiana. Louisiana's a huge producer of a lot of natural gas. Texas is the same. And getting that natural gas out. So what you do is you take natural gas and you take it to the ports, like in Corpus Christi or Houston, and then you make it into LNG, a liquefied product, and then you send it overseas and sell it. And it was like $2. They measured in 1,000 cubic feet of gas, but it was $2 here. They were paying $9 to $12 in China and other countries. They were paying this, and so it just makes 100% positive response on, hey, you know what? If we can buy it for $2 and sell it for $9, that's like a
Hmm.
pretty good profit there. Why don't we do that all day long? But Biden didn't like that. He didn't want anything to do with producing oil and gas, or he was obviously real negative on that. We won't get into that. That'll take us into next year to talk about Democrats
Into
and
next year.
all the different things that go along with why we were producing it, why we weren't. But we did not produce a lot of natural gas, and we were producing it, but the gas price was way down. Well, look, under Trump,
Mhm.
we're shipping it overseas. It's $3.50 right now, and we've got some really great prospects. our toolbox, our tool shed. I don't know where that
Tool
is,
shed.
but
I think it's a shed. I think it's a
all
shed. I
right,
think
yeah.
it's what it is.
We do have a lot of great prospects to drill now that natural gas prices are up. It makes more sense.
Yeah, something that I've heard a little rumblings about just from people in the industry is there's been a lot of talk, as there has been, I feel, for a while now, but of offshore production. Have you seen that impacting the markets in a way that's attention gaining, or is this just something that is always kind of like a topic of conversation in the industry?
Yeah, well, I mean, when you have hurricanes and you have things offshore, and these, there's a lot of production coming off these. Obviously, it does affect, the supply and demand, the chains, and everything's going great. And all of a sudden you knock 1 million, 2 million barrels offshore. It does affect, what's going on. But I know lately there's been some news. There's been some news about some major discoveries that are being made right now, which, hey man, that's great. For the supply of oil, and I just think we're going to need it. So I think it's a good thing.
Absolutely. And, when we're looking at offshore rigs, I know that there's been a lot of innovation when it comes to creating manless offshore rigs. And so I think that that is something that could be really impactful as well, because again, like we said at the very beginning of this podcast, it's not just about the output, it's about the people that are a part of the output. And so when we're looking at the industry as a whole, and we're looking at that innovation component, and we're looking at, how does our it's not it's like, how does the product like impact the people, but I'm not saying that correctly. It's like our output opportunities and how that is impacting the personnel that are a part of that. And I think if we can continue down this path, like NOV and their manless rigs, I'm not sure exactly. I think it's an offshore rig, but I could be wrong about that. But, as we continue to grow as the industry, and have more AI and AI invested into getting that oil, then I think that we'll be in a safer positioning. Because like you said, like with hurricanes and things like that, like the last place I would want to be in the middle of a hurricane is on an offshore rig. Just saying. That
Amen
sounds
on that.
not great.
Amen on that. Boy, I tell you what, that would not, yeah, definitely. Hey, how was that podcast last week with that AI? That guy, Todd Garner, man, how was that deal?
So good. Did it help you understand AI and ML a little bit more? Because I know that it's always hard for me to capture my mind around. And you've been in the industry for so long, like it's tough to move to that kind of thought process of like, oh, what do you mean I don't have to manually do all of this stuff?
Exactly. What you mean? I don't have to go to my boxes and boxes of information, I got here and lined up and look at all these different. Because they come up with logs, in the logs, and there may be a log, and we had 100. We bought a deal one time. We had 100 bankers boxes full of information. Can you imagine if there's not a table of contents or there's not something that just lines it up? How much information is in all these? And every well that you drilled, you have information on, whether it's you did a DST or you didn't, or there's information, and there's just so much. And it's like, oh my gosh, and to be able to think about that, and think about, okay, where did I put that log, or what that log look like? And I think it's phenomenal. We've already had people reach out and say, I'm going to get a hold of that Todd Garner because we believe he's onto something.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the key conversation pieces at the AWS Energy Symposium was enterprise modernization. Yeah. How can you take your data and utilize it to make real-time decisions that impact your business and your business operations, not, obviously not just financially, but also like logistically. And how do you not just like centralize the data, but make it accessible across different different departments, right? And so getting away from the silos and having more of that that unified approach through data access. But the other thing about that makes me like so intrigued is like it's not just like oh, here's all this data. Okay, now we've organized it. Oh, now it's readily accessible. It's like, oh, now we're like making sense of it in real time and like providing reports that we can provide, like then we can do actions on. And one step further from that is providing, like, I talked to a company at the AWS Energy Symposium. The interviews will be coming out here soon, but they were talking about how they have like an ecosystem approach. So all of these different data points work into a filing structure through AI, and then that structure then comes together to like across the business provide you with information that you need to act on. And I think that that's so interesting because it is I think a very forward approach to breaking down silos, which we know has been an industry problem for so long. And it's not just a data accessibility issue. It's like how can this department who knows that this is happening tell this other department in real time that this thing needs to happen, and like create alerts across that then impact the business in such a way that like helps it, save lives, manage time and data better, and then the wells, or other areas of their business. But yeah, just super interesting. I mean, from file management and data management with there's just a bunch of companies that I talked to that were really intriguing. Seek, SEEQ, Nasuni, NVIDIA, so many companies, IBM, S&P Global.
Wow. You got to be in it.
A lot of people that were just like doing really cool things. And I was like, this is awesome. Yeah. Also, who's your website designer? Because I'm just like, these are cool websites.
Wow, that's great.
I'm a marketing nerd, so what are you going to do?
Yeah. I do see how it is and how people can, miss it or don't get involved in it, and all of a sudden it takes them longer for information. Some of the wells that we didn't drill or did drill, we drilled them, or maybe we should have drilled some of the wells that we didn't, because of having all the information at your fingertips and it being, I don't want to say easy, but easier, or it's a hard business. I mean, this is definitely a hard business. It's not easy, and
absolutely.
something is drilling 5 feet lower in the formation or whatever. I mean, people think that, the only thing you got to do is just drill down there, and if you drill it and hit it, it's going to produce oil and gas. That's not it, man. You got to drill horizontally. You got to stay in the zone, and you got to drill it, horizontally 2 miles underneath the ground, and you're down the ground 5 miles, literally 4 or 5 miles. You're supposed to be able to see down there and see where you're drilling, because if you get out of formation, no good. It's not good at all. So it's kind of a weird business.
Yeah, and seismic data, I mean, when you're talking about petabytes of data, there's just too much, right? And when you're looking at completing a project, like if you have too much information that you can't make sense of in a timely fashion, then the project either gets delayed or you're making decisions for the project that don't have the full picture because you just simply ran out of time to get it all together, And I think that with this new era of, cloud migration, enterprise modernization, data management, it's a new era, I think, for the oil and gas industry. And I'm really, it's so interesting because I do think that like for a while there was this Wild West territory, and then the industry kind of grew up a little bit, right? As we saw the super majors really kind of take over and a lot of M&A in the marketplace. And then there was the green energy initiatives that really kind of took over, which again, that was another whole Wild West era where people were trying to manage the ESG landscape
Right.
and governmental influence of that, right? And now here we are, I would say one step further into a different Wild West territory, which is AI and ML ingrained or integrated into this energy industry. And I think that as the industry continues to grow up, and just become more mature in its approach, I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens next.
Right. Absolutely, I agree, and especially if you're in the future, because I'm sitting here thinking about this, and I looked it up about one of our deals that we sold or we bought a deal, and it had 30, 40 wells on it, and it had hundreds of boxes, and we're like, oh my goodness, this is just too ridiculous. And the only way to find anything is to dig through it. It takes weeks and a lot of people but today, a few months ago, a few years ago, we digitized all our logs and all our information. So we got rid of everything, all the boxes. I think Rex kept some of the boxes, but he wasn't supposed to. But he said, no, just put those in my office. I don't want to get rid of everything, because these guys are so, don't, but anyway, so we did. But Well Drive helped us out. Kevin Harbuck, helped us out with
he's the best.
You know him. Yeah, you know Kevin.
Yeah.
And but he helped us out, digitize all our logs, and just put all the information into information. Well, now with AI digitizing all that information and putting all the data into AI, what a great symmetry, if you will, with both of those. So you not only you don't have 1,000 boxes on a big deal that you buy, but you just send it, electronically. Here's our well drive, well file, and you just send it over, and man, it's done instead of having to worry about. We bought a deal in Colorado, and that deal had 40 box. We had to rent a U-Haul. We had to rent a U-Haul to go from all the way up to Colorado, all the way down here to the home office, so we could have all the information here. And it's just one of those things. But it was.
Gotta say, not the prettiest drive.
Oh man, yeah,
a lot of desert.
You've done that before. Yeah, but we should have had you on your way home one time. But anyway, that's interesting. But yeah, I think AI is going to be an incredible way to have data at your fingertips and to know things better and to make better decisions based on all the information in front of you, instead of having to, sometimes we gather information and it takes so long that, man, you forget what you're doing.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
Know.
It's like,
and you have to pick back up where you were and the whole thing.
But if you had it at your fingertips and you can make good business decisions based on that, it's like, oh, wow, okay, well, yeah, you drill the wells that are drilled in this zone that stayed in zone 80% of the time or better, make 300% better wells than wells that don't, and the wells that are in this formation are drilling better and are better producers than this other formation. Then that's so important and save the company millions, tens of millions of dollars.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, this is really it's a whole different ball game now in the energy industry with AI and ML being integrated in, and with the super majors, and massive companies, just the enterprise modernization. It's a heavy, heavy haul, and it is underway. And what happens next, like we said, is going to be very interesting to see.
Yeah, that's great. Absolutely. Well, hey, Jordan, it's been great seeing you today.
Thank you. You too. It's very rainy here in Houston.
Is it really?
So you just bring the rays of sunshine, Jay.
Oh,
and
my
so
goodness.
I always look forward to it.
Oh, you're great. You're awesome. Hey, we couldn't do it without you. We could not do it
Likewise.
without you, and we appreciate you. And I'm glad your hair looks great. Your hair looks great for being in the rain. Mine
Oh
would
my
be terrible.
gosh,
My hair would
I
be
got
all,
a haircut.
oh,
Yeah.
awesome,
Mhm.
looking good.
We got bangs. It's
Oh, there you go.
French style. So don't look too close. There's a lot of hairspray in it.
Oh my gosh. Well, hey, everybody, thanks for coming here today. We appreciate you being here today, and we look forward to you coming back next week as we'll have another show. We're not sure what it is yet, but hey, when we find out, we will let you
You'll
know.
know.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great week.